Project 2025 is Donald Trump's playbook.
These celebrities are just addicted to virtue signaling, and I'm begging them, please, to shut up. More celebrities and singers wade into politics, a sex party scandal roils New York City, California's latest virtue signaling gone wild, and another unhinged TikTok. All this and so much more is coming up on today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where I take on the craziest ideas from across the internet and across our politics, all from an independent perspective. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing and sticking around, and regardless, do hit that like button as we go along to reward my suffering through all this stupidity, and do comment with your thoughts. I do read the comments. I take the time to read them most days, and I pick some to respond to in every episode. Plus, if you leave your comment with a super chat or a super thanks, I'll definitely read it on tomorrow's show. Now, without further ado, we've got to talk about singer celebrities and their political virtue signaling. This time, Hayley Williams of Paramore, whose music I've always actually really liked, who decided at a recent iHeartRadio festival performance to get political and break in the middle of her song to deliver this stunning and brave message.
Project 2025 is Donald Trump's playbook for controlling and punishing women, poor people, people of color, and the LGBTQ plus community. It is time for all Americans to band together and to finally defeat the Trump agenda. And the only way to do that is by confronting him at the polls. Do you want to live in a dictatorship? Well, show up and vote! Yeah!
I'm sure, like me, you're struck by just how stunning and brave this passionate, off-the-cuff, heartfelt speech was. Well, except for the fact that another camera angle actually shows she was literally just reading these talking points from cue cards. Here's a wild thought. If you can't speak about your politics for more than 30 seconds without literally reading them from cue cards, maybe, just maybe, you aren't the profound political mind and genius that we should be going to for our analysis of national politics and the future of our country. Of course, this kind of thing, interjecting politics into entertainment, is not exactly new, and it's not Hayley Williams' first rodeo either. Here's what she had to say a few years ago about fans of hers potentially voting for Ron DeSantis.
I'll be happy to tell you, I'm very comfortable talking politics. And if you vote for Ron DeSantis, you're dead to me. So is that comfortable enough for anyone?
Isn't she just so lovely and open-minded? Singers and celebrities, they have a right to an opinion. They have a right to speak their mind if they so choose. I acknowledge that, but I also have the right to ridicule them and roll my eyes at them if they pop off with these ill-informed and ignorant takes. But I really wish they would just stay in their lane more. And yes, this includes the right-wing celebrities and country music stars who interject politics into their performances too. That's really not what people are there for. People are there to escape from a world that is stressful and anxiety-inducing, and for you to actually derail your performance like this just to interject politics into it, nobody there wants that. Nobody went to the iHeartRadio Music Festival to get 2024 election analysis from Hayley Williams of Paramore. That's not why people are there. They're there because they like your music. You're a very talented singer and songwriter. So just stick to that. Just give people a distraction, keep them entertained, bring them some joy, but don't try to be all things. That's not what you are, right? You're not an economist. You're not a political scientist. You're not a reporter with extensive background knowledge on the candidates and their policy plans. You can't even speak about it for 30 seconds without cue cards. Okay, babe, so I'm sorry, but we don't need your profound wisdom about politics. We just don't. And that's evidenced by the fact that she spoke for so little, but the entire thing she did say was just bullshit. It was just like basically a lie. I mean, whether you love him or hate him, and I have plenty of criticisms of him, his current presidential campaign and him as a person, but Trump doesn't support Project 2025. He's crapped all over it time and time again on the record and embarrassed the people behind this Heritage Foundation agenda document and said, I don't support that. It's crazy. I don't want anything to do with it. And he's put out his own agenda that you could actually critique. You could actually look at. It's called Agenda 47. It's all on his website, everything he wants to do. And most of the crazy stuff from Project 2025 is nowhere to be found in either that document or the official GOP party platform. So it's basically a boogeyman that left-wing people love to talk about, but has really not much substance to it behind the fear-mongering. But of course, that's the talking point she has to trot out to fearmonger people about LGBTQ people and poor people and people of color and blah, blah, blah. And the dictator thing is also a bit eye-roll inducing. I mean, in a sense, Trump has shown his hostility towards democracy, towards elections, towards other things, and I'm concerned by that, but he was president once and did not become a dictator, right? And this idea that he's going to do that, it mostly stems from a joke he said in one sentence, where he said, I'll only be a dictator on day one. It was a joke. And people now take it unironically and say he said he wants to be a dictator. You gotta chill. You got to take a Xanax. You have to have some degree of soberness in your analysis of politics, or you really just shouldn't speak up about it. Because when you're so emotional and you're just so unable to view these things critically and rationally, you end up with this kind of virtue signaling nonsense. And Hayley Williams will get lots of attaboys and pats on the shoulder from woke media outlets who are like, oh, what an icon, using her platform to stand up for LGBTQIA2 plus alien people or whatever. But no, actual normal Americans, the ones who buy your songs and music, will roll their eyes at this. Even the ones who are voting for Kamala, a lot of them probably don't want this nonsense from their pop stars. So please, I am once again begging woke celebrities to stop interjecting politics into entertainment. It's vapid, it's annoying, and it's just fundamentally not what anybody wants to hear about from you. And so it should really be okay for pop stars to back out and not wade in politically. But another story that's happening right now with a huge up-and-coming pop star named Chappell Roan kind of shows why they might be doing this virtue signaling, because she's getting horrifically bullied and harassed online because Chappell Roan has dared to say that she won't be making a 2024 endorsement. In a statement, Chappell Roan said, I have so many issues with our government in every way. There are so many things that I would want to change, so I don't feel pressured to endorse someone. There's problems on both sides. To me, I saw that and I was like, yeah, okay, I actually kind of can relate to that, and I'm glad you're kind of staying in your lane for once. But woke Twitter lost its ever-loving mind at this woman for daring to not throw her full support behind Queen Kamala. One viral tweet with 13 million views reads, "This is about 10 million times worse than Taylor Swift hugging a Trump supporter. Problems on both sides is the most cowardly, uneducated, and downright embarrassing thing you could possibly say about this election." Another person wrote, "Chappell Roan is an embarrassment to lesbians. You can't borrow from drag aesthetics and embrace your sexuality and then pretend the party that would criminalize our happiness is the same as the one who protects it." Another dude wrote, "How are you queer, an ardent defender of the drag community, and somehow a both sides are bad person?" These people are absolutely unhinged. It is 100% okay for a pop star to know the limits of their own knowledge and expertise and not endorse somebody in the presidential election. And just because they have a certain identity or background does not mean they have to agree with you politically or subscribe to your exact ideology or do exactly as you would have them do. In fact, you're actually demonstrating contempt for queer people, which I don't even like that word, but in this case, lesbian people's individuality, their own right to decide for themselves what they think and have different values and beliefs and make their own decision about who to support for president. There's a gross controlling nature to this discourse of how dare you not get in line and do what we think you're supposed to do because of what boxes you check off on the census. Dude, do you realize how tokenizing and reductionist that is? It's really gross, and they're essentially just trying to bully all these celebrities into stepping outside of their lanes. But I, for one at least, And I've criticized her on the show in the past because I disagree with her on a number of things. And I do like her music a lot, Chappell Roan, but I have not been a fan of her approach at times. I got to give her credit on this one. I think she deserves credit, not this unhinged condemnation, for actually staying in her lane as a singer and not wading into presidential politics. We need more humility and more kind of knowing your role from people in entertainment, not less, not more virtue signaling and more political activism. So to me, these unhinged haters need to take a Xanax and stop looking to Hollywood and the entertainment industry for their political insight and analysis, and maybe actually try following the news or listening to people who have made those things their life's work for once, not people whose claim to fame is writing catchy pop songs. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and do hit that like button while you're at it. And now we've got to talk about sex parties during COVID. Yeah, I really didn't think those words would be coming out of my mouth this morning, but here we are, because a New York City public health official who was one of the top people during COVID and was involved in social distancing orders and mask mandates and even vaccine mandates that cost people their jobs has just been exposed by the conservative YouTuber Steven Crowder's undercover investigative journalism team as actually having had drug-fueled public orgies with all the while during COVID while they were enforcing these pretty draconian restrictions on everyday New Yorkers. Let's take a look at some local news coverage of this crazy, crazy story.
The city's COVID czar, former COVID czar, Dr. Jay Varma, is not denying that he partied during the pandemic, but he says his shocking comments caught on hidden camera are taken out of context. Let's get right to Good Day's Briella Tomasetti. She is live at City Hall this morning with the latest. Briella, good morning.
Tashani, good morning to you. And if you're just catching up, Dr. Jay Varma was caught on camera, secretly recorded, talking about how he hosted drug-fueled sex parties, went to underground raves, and had to, quote, be kind of sneaky about it because he was running the entire COVID response in the city. Former Mayor de Blasio praised him for his handling of the pandemic, which included a highly controversial vaccine mandate that got some people fired and forced others to quit their jobs. Neither de Blasio, who appointed Varma, or the current mayor, Eric Adams, commented on the scandal, but this certainly isn't the last we'll be hearing about it.
Do you think you'd have gotten like a hard time if New York City found out that you were having sex parties during COVID?
Yeah, it would have been real bad.
Yeah.
In a scathing video released by conservative podcaster Steven Crowder, Dr. Jay Varma, New York City's former COVID czar, boasts about throwing sex parties during the height of the pandemic. The clips posted to Crowder's YouTube channel seem to have been compiled from several different recordings where Varma is caught on camera speaking to a woman about hosting drug-fueled orgies with his wife and attending underground dance parties with more than 200 people.
It was fun. We all took Molly.
In a statement released to the New York Times, Varma said he was targeted by an operative for an extremist right-wing organization determined to malign public health officials and take down the public health system in America. He added, "I stand by my efforts to get New Yorkers vaccinated against COVID-19. Varma didn't deny the recordings were real, but said they'd been spliced, diced, and taken out of context. He also admitted to attending 3 gatherings between August 2020 and June of 2021.
Everything that we do to prevent infections, keeping distance, wearing masks, washing our hands, we need to be even more rigorous about.
During that same exact time period, Varma regularly appeared on Fox 5, encouraging New Yorkers to mask up, stay home, and practice social distancing as public health officials sought to contain the deadly virus.
Y'all, these people belong in jail. The audacity to have actually subjected New Yorkers to draconian restrictions that cost many people their jobs because they didn't want to take the vaccine or other things, or people missed out on birthday parties, seeing loved ones, so many horror stories. All the while, you're having drug-fueled orgies and massive gatherings, low-key, and keeping it undercover. I don't know what crime that would count as, but if there isn't one, there needs to be, because absolutely public officials who betray the public trust like this and just crap all over their constituents belong in jail. This is insane. It is so disturbing and offensive. And how this person wasn't exposed for this from within whatever, government around them must have known it was going on and wasn't publicly condemned and hasn't been hounded out of life, just polite society. How this person's ever allowed to show their face in public without being shamed and ridiculed is just beyond me. And I can't get over the idea that these clips are taken out of context. What context is there, babe? You admitted to having drug-fueled orgies during the pandemic while telling people to stay at home, follow lockdowns, wear masks, and take vaccines. There's no context that makes that okay, that makes that anything less than grotesque hypocrisy. There's no context. Oh my God. And to say like, oh, well, those conservative YouTubers who caught me, they want to sabotage public health officials and come after and undermine our credibility. No, baby, you know who's doing a great job of undermining the credibility of the public health establishment? The public health establishment. People like you who are hypocrites and frauds and liars and cheats. Other people are not the ones undermining your establishment because they're exposing your misdeeds. That's you undermining it, not them. I can't even talk about these stories or think about them too much because they really do make me angry. And I don't cover a lot of stuff in politics that makes me truly angry, but I feel like we all just moved on and we just let in the rearview mirror so much stuff go behind us that there hasn't been a true reckoning for all the grotesque and inhumane and evil ways that officials oppressed us and betrayed us during the COVID pandemic with the government policies they enacted. And all the while, even people who are still popular major figures like Gavin Newsom just flouted their own restrictions, went to fancy restaurants while they were closing them for other people or telling other people to social distance. And we've just moved on for that and forgiven it, I guess, and let it go. And to me, it's all unforgivable. And to me, there's not been nearly enough reckoning with all the injustices from this dark period in American life. But hey, let me know what you think in the comments below. And are you as maddened by this stuff as I am, or are you over it? Let me know. And now we've got to talk about the state of California, which just took a huge step forward in addressing its huge immigration crisis, its huge homelessness problem, its problem with drug overdoses, its housing affordability crisis, and all that will soon be resolved because of this major move they just announced. Just kidding. They just banned plastic bags at the grocery store? Let's check out some local news coverage.
You won't be hearing the question paper or plastic for much longer as Governor Newsom signs a bill banning plastic shopping bags at grocery stores. May sound like deja vu because the state already banned thin plastic shopping bags in supermarkets and other stores. They were replaced with thicker bags that were supposedly reusable and recyclable. But lawmakers say that ban didn't reduce the overall plastic use, going from 8 pounds per person in 2004 to 11 pounds in 2021.
Unsurprisingly, people were just not really reusing these. So we actually did a survey where we stood outside grocery stores and counted how many people walked into the store with one of these bags to reuse them. And we found only 2% of the people we counted actually brought one of these bags back.
Law goes into effect in 2026.
So I find this remarkable on a couple of levels. One is that California is facing so many different crises, whether it's the freaking out of control wildfires, the homelessness issue, drug overdoses, or the insane cost of housing, all these things that are leading people to increasingly flee the state in droves. And this is what the government is hard at work on, banning plastic bags. I mean, it just seems like a total misplacement of priorities to me. But then even in its own right, it's one of those ideas that sounds good on the surface, but is often so rife with unintended consequences that it ends up doing far more harm than good. And that happens all the time when the government tries to micromanage our lives, which are actually very complicated, and they're not very good at doing so. So these plastic bag bans in other states have failed, and the research into them shows that they often harm the environment more than they help. A 2019 NPR article explains all the ways that these bans backfire, and it's titled, "Are Plastic Bag Bans Garbage?" It pointed out one way in which these bans backfired, which is that many people had reused the plastic bags they got at the grocery store for things like picking up dog poop or lining trash bins, and they still needed bags. So when they banned the the plastic bags, the sale of other forms of plastic bags, like 4-gallon bags and trash bags, absolutely skyrocketed. They quoted one expert who said that about 30% of the plastic that was eliminated by the ban comes back in the form of thicker garbage bags. And then on top of that, cities that banned plastic bags saw a surge in the use of paper bags, which he estimates resulted in about 80 million pounds of extra paper trash per year. And what's ironic about that is a lot of research has shown that paper bags are actually far worse for the environment than plastic bags. As this NPR article reads, a bunch of studies find that paper bags are actually worse for the environment. They require cutting down and processing trees, which involves lots of water, toxic chemicals, fuel, and heavy machinery. While paper is biodegradable and avoids some of the problems of plastic, the huge increase of paper, together with the uptick in plastic trash bags, means banning plastic shopping bags increases greenhouse gas emissions. That said, these bans do reduce non-biodegradable litter. Now, what about those tote bags that people buy and that they reuse to save the environment and show how conscious they are? Yeah, those in most cases turn out to be worse for the environment than plain old plastic bags too. As NPR reports, a 2011 study by the UK government found that a person would have to reuse a cotton tote bag 131 times before it was better for climate change than using a plastic grocery bag once. The Danish government recently did a study that took into account environmental impacts beyond simply greenhouse gas emissions, including water use, damage to ecosystems, and air pollution. These factors make cloth bags even worse. They estimate you would have to use an organic cotton bag 20,000 times more than a plastic grocery bag to make using it better for the environment. And for more proof of how these bans can backfire, just look at New Jersey. After they banned plastic bags, their plastic consumption overall actually tripled, according to USA Today. All in all, these stories really do sum up everything that's wrong with the modern nanny-state, big government approach to environmental regulation. Obviously, preserving our environment and taking care of the world we live in and rely on to survive is important and necessary. But when the government tries to micromanage it with regulations that are coming down to our everyday choices and things like plastic bags, it often backfires because these supply chains and systems that go behind and go into all these things are so intricate and complex, and the legislators can't possibly anticipate all the unintended consequences that will inevitably entail when they meddle in these things and try to micromanage the minute details of our lives. I know it's a big ask, but we need our governments to have some degree of humility about the limits of their own capabilities and to not try to micromanage everything in this way that just always seems to backfire. But they don't care. They'll get the virtue signaling and the pats on the back from the media and from environmental lobbyists and all these people who will give them money for the next campaign or whatever. And if plastic consumption actually goes up, who cares? If carbon emissions actually go up, they don't really care that much because that's not actually what any of this is really about. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And now it's time for Brad versus TikTok, my daily segment where I take on the craziest ideas from the Clock app.
Pronoun of the day is slugs.
Today, we've got another unhinged TikTok about capitalism. Let's take a look.
How have we convinced everyone in this country that literally, like, when you are working 40 hours a week, especially if you're working like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, that's your whole day. You are giving up 5 days of your week and you get 2 of them to survive, okay? And yeah, sure. And within this capitalistic system, of course, Emrys, how else are we going to pay our bills? Okay, did you know people used to not pay bills? Did you know that it's like people used to not pay rent for this earth? Because if you really think about it, right, who are we paying rent to? Who owns the earth? Who owns the land? And why do they own the land? Then if you want to get extra technical, this is for my fellow Americans. Who owned the land? Who took the land? And what were the reasons for it? And are their reasons valid enough that we suddenly now have to pay them for it? For 40 hours a week. And it just sucks because you can't have that conversation most of the time because it's too radical. And it's like, hear me out. I understand. Right now we are in a position or a time in society where people do have to work for 40 hours a week in order to survive. But it's like, if you are those people, can we at least just all come together and like, why aren't you mad? Why is it the people that work the most that are like, this is fine? I like this. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You can like it. But like, you are a slave.
Oh?
Say it with your chest.
So that took a little bit of a wild twist at the end there, again with this slave thing. That is so offensive to actual people who experienced slavery and the horrific, evil nature of that system that forcibly put people into labor and violated their human rights and abused them just to no end. To compare that to you choosing to work where you want to work, what line of work you want to go into, but having to work in some capacity because you don't have a divine right to have everyone else pay for everything you need and take care of you as an adult. Oh, that's not slavery, babe. Again, you cannot put your 2 weeks in as a slave. I just don't understand why they make these ridiculous hyperbolic claims. It just seems like it discredits them in their arguments. And look, I'm not without sympathy to the fact that it can be hard to work full time, to work a 9 to 5, especially with a big commute. Like, it's not easy. I've done it. My life looks different now, but I have done that. And I'm not sitting here saying it's easy, but I am just, once again, not really sure what the alternative is. I mean, this person talks about like, oh, back in the day, no one had to rent the earth under Native Americans or whatever. Babe, they lived in teepees. They lived in huts made out of mud. Yes, they did not have to pay rent for it, but they didn't live in this marvelous modern society with these apartment complexes, with all these amenities and all this technology and all this stuff. I mean, it has to come from somewhere. Do these people think they have some divine right to exist and have all their needs met by other people? Seriously, is that what they think? And I get that people work hard, I really do, but they don't seem to understand that working conditions, yes, under the evil slave system of capitalism, have gotten so much better. I can put the graphs on the screen, y'all, but the amount of time that people work has gone down. The amount of workplace accidents has gone way down. The conditions that people work in have gotten so much more comfortable and so much more laid back and such better, relaxed, and at home in many cases, or in offices that are air conditioned and have amenities. And it's like, even just 50 or 100 years ago, the reality that people worked in would just shock you compared to today. But they act like people have never had things worse and we're just being run into the ground. And it's just not true. Maybe you're just more fragile than the generations that came before us and less willing to work and take care of yourself and more entitled. Have you ever considered that possibility? And it is always funny to me because I guess I'm making some assumptions here, but it seems pretty safe to assume this person is a hardcore progressive, right? And so they're complaining in one sense about the fact that they're forced to work so much to get by and that people are in general, but in another sense, they support the economic policies that have made life so much more expensive, especially in recent years. To me, the math is not mathing, okay? 2 + 2 is not 5. And just because you say it in a sassy way and go on a TikTok rant that gets a ton of views and likes doesn't actually make it 5 either. I would just love to know like what these people have in mind exactly. Show me a real world example of someplace that's doing it better and is thriving and has this level of prosperity and social mobility for its citizens and luxury and technology and amenity. And yet people don't have to work 40 hours a week. I'd love to know. I'd love to hear all about it. So please, if this video somehow gets back to you, babe, do hit me up and let me know where this utopia is, where everyone is just kumbaya and has all the things they need and no one has to pay rent, and no one has to work full time, and we just all just are in community and communist prosperity or whatever. Please, I'm very curious. You guys let me know what you think of this video in the comments below. Do you think she's letting her Delulu show, or do you think she actually has a point? Let me know in the comments, and do hit that like button to reward my suffering through this Absolute hellscape of an app. And now I'll wrap up today's show by reading a few of your comments from the last episode. One person says, I feel like I deserve smarter haters is such a good burn. That needs to be on a shirt. Yes, we are going to be adding that to the merch line, so stay tuned. Another person says, insulting Brad's looks is a weird one. We all know Brad is hot. I agree. Yeah, but what can I say? They have to go after something. Another person writes, I am disabled. I hate that this person is using me and people like me to guilt people into wearing a mask in 2024. I don't wear a mask in public and haven't for a long time. I don't expect anyone else to either. And I don't think anyone hates me or doesn't care about me because they don't wear a mask. Well, it sounds like you have a great attitude. And honestly, like if I was going to go to the home of somebody who was immunocompromised or something, I'd be totally willing to do whatever they needed. But yeah, you can't expect the whole world to accommodate you when you're in public and everything in an extreme rare condition or exception. Like that's just not how reality works. Another person says, as far as appearances go, the only awful thing going on is your background. Please, Brad, it hurts my soul. What's so bad about it? And it's even blurred, so you can't even see it. I don't get it. I don't get the hate for the background. I think it's fine. Another person writes, I raised a terminally ill child. She had cystic fibrosis. Oh, I'm so sorry. My heart breaks for you. A cold, flu, or other respiratory virus could easily have killed her. She was alive during H1N1. At no time during her 24 years of life did we require any person in public to mask around her. She wore a mask if she was ill and needed to go out in public. The only time anyone was required to mask for her was if they entered our home with symptoms and she was on a PICC line, just out of hospital or otherwise at risk. She had no trouble during H1N1, never mind the fact that she was young and her CF treatments were still not regulated. She managed to live 10 years past her prognosis. She passed away in 2018 at 24, having spent the bulk of her life in public unmasked and not requiring others to mask for her. I taught her that her health is her responsibility, no one else's, as it is for every person, healthy or compromised. Oh, well, I'm so sorry for your loss, but it sounds like you instilled some great values and made the most of the years that you had together. So my heart goes out to you. All right, everybody, that is it for this episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Do hit that like button before you go, and do comment with your thoughts. I do read the comments, and I pick a few to respond to in every episode. Plus, if you leave your comment with a super chat or a super thanks, I'll definitely read it on the next show. And with that, we'll talk again tomorrow.